Walk into a gas station, Walmart, Costco, or almost any grocery store in America and find the beef jerky. The bags make a very specific promise. Big letters saying protein, pictures of thick-cut beef, smoke, fire, mountains, ranches, black packaging, red packaging, words like original, old-fashioned, natural, handcrafted, premium. It looks like one of the simplest snacks in the store. Beef, dried, put it in a bag, but turn those bags around and the category becomes much more complicated. A single ounce of some popular jerky can deliver around 500 to 600 milligrams of sodium. That means a small handful can use roughly 1/4 of the FDA daily value before lunch. Some sweet varieties contain nearly as much added sugar as protein, and the bag itself creates another problem. A package that looks like one snack may contain 3, 5, 8, or more labeled servings. Eat while driving, working, hiking, or watching television, and the nutrition panel stops describing what you actually consumed long before the bag feels empty. That matters because jerky is concentrated food. Water has been removed. The beef becomes lighter. Protein becomes concentrated. But salt, sugar, and seasoning become concentrated too. A 2019 review on meat snacks described jerky as part of a growing category built around portability, shelf stability, and high protein. Researchers also pointed out the technological role of salt, drying, seasoning, and preservation in making that convenience possible. Another review published in LWT examined modern jerky processing and explained why producers care so much about moisture control, microbial safety, oxidation, texture, and shelf stability. So when you see salt, sugar, acids, preservatives, or flavoring on a jerky label, that does not automatically mean somebody is trying to poison you. Those ingredients perform functions. The question is how much of them you are getting, and whether the protein claim on the front has convinced you to stop looking. There is another distinction worth making before we start. Beef jerky is a processed meat product. That does not mean one strip is dangerous. It does mean high protein should not be interpreted as permission to treat jerky like unlimited fresh steak. Large systematic reviews have repeatedly found that higher habitual consumption of processed meat is associated with higher colorectal cancer risk. The important word is habitual. These studies evaluate patterns of intake, not whether one bag of jerky causes disease. Today we are examining 7 popular beef jerky products sold across the United States. We looked at 4 things: how much sodium arrives in a realistic portion, how much sugar is being added to something shoppers primarily think of as meat, how clearly the ingredient list matches the image on the front, and whether the serving size makes the product look more restrained than the way people actually eat it. Then we will show you 3 better picks that make different trade-offs. This is not a list of contaminated or legally unsafe jerky. Every product needs to meet applicable food safety requirements. This is a comparison of nutrition, formulation, portion size, and value. And one more number matters before we start. The FDA daily value for sodium is 2,300 milligrams. Keep that number in your head, because once you see how much can fit into 1 ounce of dried meat, the entire jerky aisle starts looking different. Let's begin. Number 7. Oberto Original Beef Jerky. Oberto is one of the names that helped turn jerky from road trip food into a mainstream American snack. The packaging tells you exactly what category it wants to occupy. Beef up front, protein emphasized, dark colors, no attempt to make the product look like candy. And there is genuine nutritional value here. A 1 ounce serving gives you roughly double-digit grams of protein in a compact package. For someone hiking, traveling, working a long shift, or trying to find a shelf-stable protein source, that convenience is real. Now look at what comes with the protein. Current original-style labels typically put sodium in the neighborhood of roughly 500 to 600 milligrams per ounce, depending on the exact package and formulation. That means one small serving can use close to 1/4 of the entire daily sodium value. And 1 ounce is not a large amount of jerky. Put 1 ounce on a kitchen scale. Then compare it with the amount somebody casually pulls from a resealable bag. That is the first surprise. Jerky packages look small. The serving can look even smaller. Salt is not there for no reason. Salt contributes flavor, preservation, water control, and texture. Reviews of sodium reduction in meat products describe exactly why manufacturers cannot simply remove most of it without solving technical problems elsewhere. But that does not make the sodium disappear nutritionally. Oberto Original also uses sweetness to balance salt and smoke. Several grams of sugar per serving may sound minor. Eat 2 or 3 servings, and the snack stops being simply beef plus seasoning. This is why Oberto starts the list rather than finishing it. The product is relatively straightforward. The protein is real. The issue is concentration. You are holding dried beef, so everything that remains is packed into a small amount of food. There is nothing inherently dishonest about that. The mistake happens when high protein becomes the only number shoppers read. The front tells you what the product gives you, the back tells you what comes with it, and the next product proves that paying less does not make the sodium problem disappear. Number 6. Great Value Original Beef Jerky. This is Walmart's version, a familiar black or dark bag, large pieces of beef on the front. A price designed to undercut some of the national brands sitting beside it. And for families watching the grocery budget, that matters. Protein snacks can get expensive quickly. Jerky is particularly expensive per pound because producers begin with much more fresh meat than the final dried weight you take home. Water leaves, weight disappears. Processing, seasoning, packaging, distribution, and margin remain. So a lower-priced private label bag has real appeal. But turn the Great Value package around. The basic nutritional architecture looks very familiar. Double-digit protein, several grams of sugar, and sodium commonly landing around the 500 mg per ounce neighborhood depending on the current package. The logo changed. The concentration did not. Now look at the serving size. If the package contains several ounces, ask yourself how the product is actually consumed. Does someone remove exactly 1 measured ounce, reseal the bag, put it back in the pantry, and wait until tomorrow? Sometimes, but jerky is designed for continuous snacking. The resealable package sits beside you in a truck, at a desk, in an airport, at a campsite, or during a game. 2 servings can push sodium toward roughly 1,000 milligrams. 3 can move well beyond that. And because jerky does not feel heavy in the stomach the way a full meat meal does, the portion can creep upward without looking dramatic. A 2022 scoping review of sodium reduction strategies concluded that reducing sodium across processed foods is technically possible, but often requires changes in formulation, processing, flavor delivery, or the physical structure of the food. That is important here. High sodium is not inevitable simply because a product is jerky. It is a formulation choice made inside technological constraints. Great Value does what a store brand is supposed to do. It reproduces the familiar experience for less money. The problem is that the familiar experience is already very salty. You are saving money. You are not necessarily buying a fundamentally different nutrition profile. Number 5. Tillamook Country Smoker Old-Fashioned Beef Jerky. The name does almost all the marketing before you open the package. Tillamook, country, smoker, old-fashioned. Every word points backward. A smokehouse, a wooden building, a recipe that sounds as though somebody has been making it the same way for generations. That does not make the story fake. Tillamook Country Smoker has a genuine long-running identity in American meat snacks. But heritage is not a nutrition category. The old-fashioned beef jerky formula gives you substantial protein in a small serving. It also commonly lands around the upper hundreds of milligrams of sodium per ounce, roughly in the same 500 to 600 milligram territory as several competitors. Add a few grams of sugar and suddenly the old-fashioned image becomes more complicated. Again, salt and sugar perform useful functions. Sugar balances saltiness, affects flavor and browning, and can participate in the characteristic texture consumers expect from jerky. Salt contributes much more than salty taste. Research on low-sodium meat products repeatedly describes the challenge. Change salt, and you can change microbial stability, water holding, protein interactions, texture, and flavor at the same time. But there is a consumer lesson hidden inside that science. If one manufacturer can create a lower sugar or lower sodium jerky, then high levels are not simply a law of nature. In fact, Tillamook itself proves this later in the video. The company sells formulas designed specifically around zero sugar. That means the sweetness in the old-fashioned product is not required simply because the meat is dried. It is part of the flavor profile. That distinction matters. When a package says old-fashioned, shoppers often translate that into simple. Those words are not synonyms. A traditional-looking jerky can still be formulated for modern mass distribution, long shelf life, consistent texture, and broad consumer taste. None of that makes it bad food. It means the old smokehouse image should not replace the ingredient panel. The heritage is on the front. The formulation is on the back. Number 4. Pacific Gold Original Beef. Jerky Pacific Gold is especially interesting because of where many Americans encounter it. Big box shopping, warehouse packages, large resealable bags. A product designed to feel like value. Jerky is expensive, so buying a larger package appears financially smart, and it can be. But large format jerky creates one of the category's biggest portion problems. The nutrition panel speaks in ounces. The customer eats from a bag. Those are not the same behavior. A 1-ounce serving of original-style beef jerky can provide around 10 or 11 grams of protein. That sounds excellent. But current products in this category can also bring roughly 500 milligrams or more of sodium and several grams of sugar with that ounce. Now multiply. Not because everybody eats the entire bag. Most people do not. Multiply because a 2-ounce snack is completely plausible. So is 3 ounces during a road trip. At 2 ounces, the protein looks impressive, around 20 grams, but sodium can move toward roughly 1,000 milligrams. The protein doubled. Everything else doubled with it. That is where warehouse packaging changes the psychology. When something is individually portioned, stopping has an external cue. The package is finished. A large resealable bag has no natural ending. You decide when the serving ends. Researchers studying convenient meat products have noted how technology and packaging helped move processed meat beyond meals and into portable snack occasions. That change matters. A food once eaten as part of a plate becomes something consumed continuously. Pacific Gold is not unique in this. The format is the issue. And because dried meat looks physically small, the amount of sodium can be easy to underestimate. The correct question is not, how much protein is in 1 ounce? The better question is, how many ounces do I actually eat? Warehouse value can save money per ounce. It can also make the ounce much easier to forget. Number 3. Old Trapper Old-Fashioned Beef Jerky. Old Trapper is built for exactly the consumer who does not want jerky to feel corporate. The name sounds like a person. The bag looks rustic. The word old-fashioned appears again, and some packages are enormous compared with the little convenience store bags sitting near the register. Open one, and the smell is strong immediately. Smoke, salt, sweetness, beef. It tastes like what Americans expect classic jerky to taste like. That expectation has a nutritional cost. Old-fashioned formulas commonly provide around 11 grams of protein per ounce. But sodium can approach roughly 600 milligrams in the same serving, with around 5 grams of sugar depending on the current label. 1 ounce. Now imagine 3. The protein rises into the 30s. That is the number a high-protein shopper notices. But sodium can approach 1,800 milligrams. That is most of the FDA daily value from jerky alone. This does not mean 3 ounces will harm a healthy person immediately. It means the phrase high protein gives only half the information. The bag size makes this especially important. A large package can contain enough jerky for many labeled servings, yet the pieces are irregular. There is no obvious visual line telling you where 1 ounce ends. This is where a kitchen scale teaches you something packaging cannot. Take the bag you normally buy. Place an empty bowl on the scale. Zero it. Add 1 ounce. Look at it. Then compare that with the amount you normally eat. You only need to perform that experiment once. After that, your eyes understand the label better. A 2025 study examining retail jerky and biltong products found meaningful variation in chemical composition across dried meat products, reinforcing a simple point: jerky is not one standardized nutritional profile. Protein varies, fat varies, salt varies, moisture varies, processing varies. The category name does not tell you enough. Old Trapper gives you the traditional jerky experience. The problem is that traditional flavor can make concentrated sodium feel normal. Number 2. KRAVE Sweet Chipotle Beef Jerky. KRAVE is where the health halo changes shape. This does not look like gas station jerky. The branding feels modern. The flavors sound culinary. Sweet Chipotle, Black Cherry Barbecue, Sea Salt Original. It is the kind of jerky that looks at home beside premium protein bars, cold-pressed juice, and wellness snacks. That positioning changes what shoppers expect. You are not buying a survival snack, you are buying gourmet protein. Now read the Sweet Chipotle label. Protein is there, but depending on the current package, sugar can climb toward the high single digits per ounce. That creates an unusual comparison. A snack purchased primarily because it is beef and protein can deliver an amount of sugar approaching its protein number. Add several hundred milligrams of sodium, and the product starts looking less like plain dried meat and more like a sweet, savory formulated snack whose base ingredient happens to be beef. There is nothing wrong with enjoying that. Sweet Chipotle is supposed to taste sweet. The issue is the nutritional halo created by the category. If the exact same sugar amount appeared in a cookie, nobody would call it protein. Put it into jerky, and the protein on the front becomes the dominant story. This is why flavor matters more than brand. One company can make an original product, a zero-sugar product, and a sweet barbecue product with very different nutrition panels. Ranking entire companies as good or bad misses that. The exact bag matters. A 2025 paper characterizing dry beef jerky described the product as a high-protein, ready-to-eat meat snack while also demonstrating how formulation changes can alter chemical and sensory characteristics. That is what you are tasting here. The sweetness is not a hidden accident. It was engineered into the flavor. KRAVE ranks this high because premium packaging can make shoppers less suspicious, not more. The expensive bag feels cleaner. The culinary flavor sounds sophisticated. The nutrition panel still deserves the same 10 seconds you would give the cheapest jerky in Walmart. Premium price, premium flavor, still sugar. Number 1. Jack Link's Teriyaki Beef Jerky. This is the giant. Jack Link's did more than sell jerky. It helped turn jerky into a national snack category. Gas stations, airports, Walmart, Target, convenience stores, drugstores, sporting goods stores. If somebody in America thinks of beef jerky, there is a good chance this is one of the bags they picture, and teriyaki exposes the biggest weakness in the entire category. The word beef makes you think protein first. The word teriyaki should make you think sauce. Current teriyaki labels typically provide roughly 11 grams of protein per ounce. Strong number. But added sweetness can reach around 7 or more grams in that same small serving, depending on the package. Sodium can sit around the high hundreds of milligrams per ounce as well. Now the math changes. 2 ounces gives you more than 20 grams of protein. It also brings roughly double the sugar and potentially close to 1,000 milligrams of sodium. 3 ounces? Everything multiplies again. This is not a criticism of teriyaki sauce for containing sugar. Teriyaki is sweet. It is supposed to be. The criticism is the way the category is mentally filed. People do not usually think, I am eating a sweetened processed meat snack. They think, I am getting protein. Jack Link's packaging reinforces that. Protein is one of the most powerful words in modern grocery marketing because shoppers have learned to associate it with fitness, fullness, and better choices. But protein does not erase the rest of the label. A systematic review and meta-analysis published in the European Journal of Epidemiology in 2021 examined red and processed meat consumption across prospective studies and found higher processed meat intake associated with higher incidence of several cancers, including colorectal cancer. Another meta-analysis focused specifically on processed meat and colorectal cancer reached a similar overall direction of association. That does not mean Jack Link's teriyaki causes cancer. That would be an irresponsible conclusion. Those studies evaluate dietary patterns across populations. The reason they matter here is simpler. Jerky should be treated as processed meat, not as an unlimited protein supplement. You can enjoy it, you can use it for travel, you can keep it in an emergency bag, you can build it into a balanced diet. But the protein number does not turn sugar and sodium invisible. Jack Link's is number 1 because it represents the category better than anyone else. Portable, convenient, high protein, intensely flavored, easy to overeat, and far more nutritionally concentrated than the little bag makes it appear. The Sasquatch sells the snack. The Nutrition Facts panel tells you how often it belongs in the routine. If this investigation is changing how you see the jerky aisle, a quick like helps more shoppers find it. Now here is the useful part. 3 better picks. Not because these are perfect foods, not because you should eat unlimited processed meat. Because each one solves at least one of the biggest problems we just found without pretending protein is the only number that matters. Better pick number 3. Tillamook Country Smoker Zero Sugar Beef Jerky. This is why we said from the beginning that we are ranking products, not declaring entire companies good or bad. Tillamook appeared earlier on the reconsider list. Tillamook appears again here. Different formula. The zero sugar line removes one of the easiest nutritional problems to fix: added sugar. Current versions provide double-digit protein without the several grams of sugar found in sweeter traditional formulations. That is meaningful. It does not make the sodium problem disappear. This is still dried, seasoned meat, and sodium can remain substantial. So do not read zero sugar as unlimited. Read it correctly. One trade-off has improved. The product also proves something important about the rest of the aisle. Jerky does not require 5, 7, or 9 grams of sugar simply to exist. Manufacturers can build a product without it. The flavor will be different. Texture may be different. Sweetness obviously changes, but the product is still jerky. If your biggest concern is sugar, and you already like the Tillamook texture, this is the more defensible bag. Same company, different decision. That is why reading the exact product beats judging the logo. Better pick number 2. People's Choice Old-Fashioned Original Beef Jerky. People's Choice takes the old-fashioned idea much closer to its literal meaning. The classic original formula is known for a restrained ingredient approach and very little emphasis on sweetness compared with many mass-market products. The result is jerky that tastes more like seasoned dried beef and less like sauce carried by beef. That matters because it lets protein remain the nutritional story without sugar competing for the same space. The texture is also different from many soft, heavily marinated products. Drier, chewier, less candy-like. That will not appeal to everyone, and that is important. A better nutrition label does not guarantee a better snack for your taste. The product still contains salt. It is still processed meat. Portion size still matters. But the ingredient philosophy is easier to understand. Beef, seasoning, drying, less reliance on sweetness to keep your hand returning to the bag. For shoppers who want jerky to taste like jerky rather than barbecue candy, this is much closer to the target. Better pick number 1. Country Archer Zero Sugar Classic Beef Jerky. The number 1 pick combines the two things most of the avoid list struggles to deliver at the same time. Strong protein, no added sugar. Country Archer's Zero Sugar Classic line is designed around a simple promise: keep the meat snack savory without building the flavor around sweeteners. Current packages provide double-digit protein with 0 grams of sugar. Sodium still exists. It has to remain part of the decision. But when you compare the complete package with sweetened jerky, the trade-off becomes easier to justify. You are not spending part of your daily added sugar budget to obtain protein that can be delivered without it. The ingredient list also tends to align more closely with what the package is trying to sell: beef, seasoning, and preservation rather than a dessert-style sauce. Again, zero sugar is not the same as zero risk. This is processed meat. It is concentrated. And the better choice for someone who needs very low sodium may not be jerky at all. But within the category, Country Archer demonstrates what a modern jerky can look like when sweetness is not used as the default solution. That is why it finishes first. Not perfect, just a better trade. Final shopping rule. Here is the fastest way to shop the beef jerky aisle. Ignore the giant protein number for 10 seconds. Turn the bag around. First, check serving size. If the label says 1 ounce, understand what 1 ounce actually looks like. Then check sodium. The FDA daily value is 2,300 milligrams. If 1 ounce contains 500 or 600, calculate what happens when you eat 2. Then check added sugar. Original jerky does not need to taste like candy. If a sweet flavor contains 7, 8, or 9 grams, decide whether the flavor is worth it. Then read the ingredient list. Do not panic because an ingredient has a technical name. Ask what function it serves. Salt preserves and flavors. Acids can help control microbial growth and flavor. Sugar balances flavor and affects texture. Preservation systems exist because shelf-stable meat has to remain safe during distribution. The problem is not complexity by itself. The problem is buying a concentrated processed meat snack while looking at only one positive number: protein. Research on jerky processing makes one thing clear. Producers have tools to modify salt, sugar, drying conditions, texture, preservation, and shelf stability. That means there is no single nutritional profile called beef jerky. Compare bags. And do not assume premium automatically means better. Do not assume old-fashioned means simple. Do not assume zero sugar means low sodium. Do not assume natural means unlimited. Most importantly, do not assume high protein means healthy in every dimension. Jerky can be useful. It travels without refrigeration. It is compact. It delivers substantial protein. And it can be one of the easiest foods to keep in a backpack, truck, desk drawer, or airport bag. That convenience is exactly why the numbers matter. A food you eat once a month does not have the same impact as something sitting beside you every afternoon. The best jerky is not the bag with the loudest protein claim. It is the bag whose trade-offs make sense after you read the whole label. Buy the beef, count the sodium, watch the sugar, and know what 1 ounce actually looks like.